Imagine being forced to take piano lessons for 7 whole years as a kid, only to realize at the end of it all that you are, at best, painfully average. Well, that's exactly what happened to author Peter Hollins. While a friend of his started at the exact same time and quickly advanced to these complex, advanced student recitals, Peter was stuck indoors all summer, plunking away with zero focus, just wishing he was out riding his new mountain bike. But here is the realization that literally changes everything. His failure wasn't about a lack of some innate, magical talent. It was entirely about how he was learning and practicing. And today, we're going to fix that broken process for all of us.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into Peter Hollins' book, The Science of Rapid Skill Acquisition. We're going to explore the source material to uncover the incredibly scientific, structured methods of deconstruction and practice. Because, as it turns out, learning a new skill isn't just about grinding away in total frustration. There's actually a real science to it.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the scientific curriculum we're going to cover today, setting a clear roadmap for us. First, the true mechanics of learning. Second, deconstruct your target skill. Third, the science of perfect practice. Fourth, problem-based skill building. And finally, number 5, deep comprehension and mastery.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the true mechanics of learning. We really need to contrast the old, broken way of passive school learning with the active methods required for real, rapid skill acquisition.
You see, to get to true mastery, everyone goes through these 4 distinct stages of competence. We start out at unconscious incompetence. Simply put, you don't even know what you don't know. Think of sitting at a piano for the very first time. Second is conscious incompetence. This is where you start making mistakes, but hey, at least now you actually recognize you're making them. Third, we hit conscious competence. You can finally do the thing, say play a full song, but it takes intense, draining focus and effort. And finally, the holy grail, unconscious competence. This is effortless mastery, where your muscle memory just takes over and you perform brilliantly without even having to think about it.
Moving right along to Section 2, deconstruct your target skill. Because learning a new skill isn't just one massive undertaking, it's really a collection of manageable sub-skills that need to be deconstructed.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the famous Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, applies to these sub-skills. Take language learning, for example. The English language has over 250,000 words, but linguists have actually found that you only need about 2,500 words to express virtually anything you could want to say on a daily basis. That is a staggering demonstration of the Pareto principle. You've got to focus your energy on the 20% of sub-skills that yield 80% of your results and honestly just ignore the rest until later.
So once you know exactly what sub-skills to focus on, you need to gather your resources safely. Here's a highly methodical 5-step research process to make sure you're learning from the right places. First, gather everything you can find. Second, filter out the bad sources. Definitely do not confuse a random anecdote with actual evidence. Third, look for overlap in patterns. If multiple experts are repeating a concept, it matters. Fourth, seek dissenting opinions. This is absolutely crucial to avoid confirmation bias, which is our dangerous human tendency to cherry-pick data that only supports what we already want to believe. Finally, put it all together. But a quick warning for you here. Do not let this research stage turn into information overload or worse, a comfortable way to procrastinate. Eventually, you literally just have to stop reading and start doing.
And that brings us to the famous learning pyramid. Look at the staggering difference in retention rates here. Listening to passive lectures, that yields a dismal 5% retention rate. But when you jump down to active, real-life practice, your retention skyrockets to 75%. And the absolute ultimate hack for learning? Teaching others. When you actually have to organize your thoughts and explain a process to someone else, you retain up to 90% of the information. Why? Well, because having to instruct someone else brutally exposes the gaps in your own knowledge. You just can't hide behind generalizations when you are the teacher.
All right, let's jump into the core of our explainer with Section 3, the science of perfect practice. This is the practice paradox where we debunk standard routines because blind repetition only reinforces bad habits. So how should we actively practice to avoid those bad habits? Let's contrast block practice with interleaved practice. Traditionally, we're taught to use block practice. Learn skill A completely, then move to B, then finally to C. But the science shows that interleaved practice, mixing related subjects like A, B, and C dynamically in a single session, is just far superior. For example, a math student shouldn't just study exponents all day long. They should mix exponents, graphing, and square roots. Mixing it up disrupts your comfort zone. It stops you from going on autopilot, and it forces your brain to continually find different solutions. The source material notes this yields a massive 43% increase in learning retention over block practice. No way, right?
And this brilliantly illustrates our next major point: spaced repetition. Compare cramming for 20 hours into one exhausting weekend against studying for just 1 hour a day for 20 days. Our brains absolutely crave frequency, not just duration. Think of your memory like a dirt path in a garden. Walking it 100 times in one single day won't wear it down as effectively as walking it just a few times every single day for weeks. Your brain literally needs sleep and time away to build those neural connections. 5 minutes a day is radically superior to an hour a week.
Let's shift our focus from theory out into the real world with Section 4, Problem-Based Skill Building. This is all about the idea that setting a practical goal makes learning completely inevitable.
This brings us to the definition of problem-based learning, or PBL. Instead of setting out to just learn a generic skill, you set a goal to solve a very specific problem, and the skill is naturally acquired along the way. The author shares a pretty funny anecdote about this. Back in high school, he wanted to impress a classmate named Jessica who sat right in front of him in Spanish class. She kept turning around and asking him for help, so to avoid looking foolish, he meticulously studied Spanish, creating massive flashcards just to have a reason to keep talking to her. He ended up getting an A+ and became fluent faster than anyone else, all because he was trying to solve the real-world problem of impressing Jessica.
So, I want you to think about your own routine for a second. How can you practically apply this PBL framework to your own everyday challenges? How can we turn daily frustrations into a springboard for learning?
The source text offers a couple of really great everyday examples here. Let's say you're super stressed out by chaotic last-minute dinners. You can use problem-based learning to tackle that by creating a meal planning system, by researching recipes, finding grocery apps, and scheduling meals to solve your stress problem. You inevitably end up learning advanced cooking and organizational skills. Or what if your favorite toaster breaks? Instead of just throwing it in the trash, you set a goal to fix it. Suddenly, you're taking it apart, reading manuals, watching YouTube tutorials, and inadvertently teaching yourself basic electronics. Trying to fix a stressful daily issue organically forces the acquisition of a new skill.
We're in the home stretch. Section 5, Deep Comprehension and Mastery. This is where we test our true understanding and identify the dangerous blind spots in our knowledge.
One of the best ways to test comprehension is elaborative interrogation, which basically mimics a small child's relentless line of questioning. You know, the why chain, right? A kid asks where rain comes from. You say clouds. They ask why clouds don't hold the rain. You answer, and they ask why again until you're finally forced to say, because I said so. Well, apply this exact method to yourself. Start with a fact, ask why or how, answer it, and repeat. For instance, memorizing the parts of a flower means nothing unless you ask why that specific part is integral to its lifespan. Eventually, you will hit a wall where you cannot explain it. That wall is your blind spot, and it tells you exactly what you need to study next.
So, the crucial point is really captured by the Feynman technique, named after the brilliant Nobel Prize-winning physicist Richard Feynman. He believed that if you can't explain a complex concept in simple, plain English, like as if you were speaking to a beginner, then you don't actually understand it. This is the ultimate test. Stripping away the jargon forces you to see exactly where your understanding is weak. And of course, part of mastery is making mistakes. You will fail. And honestly, that's completely necessary. As this powerful Oprah Winfrey quote says, "When you lose, don't lose the lesson." To achieve rapid skill acquisition, you have to engage in brutal self-assessment. The author talks about a time he almost crashed a car during a driving lesson because he failed to check his blind spot. Only by analyzing that exact failure, admitting his own hubris and poor execution, could he actually fix the behavior. When you mess up, you have to step back, put your ego aside and ask, what was the root cause? Did I execute poorly, or was my strategy just wrong?
Let's turn all of this into real action. You now have the architect's blueprint for rapid learning. You know to deconstruct skills, interleave your practice, space out your repetition, and pressure test your knowledge. The only thing left is to take ownership. So, looking at your own life and goals right now, what skill are you going to deconstruct first?